You applied on a Tuesday morning. The rejection came back the same morning. 15 minutes, long enough to open a file and read one line. Same company, second role. Applied. Rejected. Faster that time. By the fourth one, you were rewriting your resume, changing the format, stripping the columns. You were editing the wrong document. You think a machine screened you out. The data disagrees. In 83% of companies, nothing rejects a candidate automatically. A person opens the file first, which means a person opened yours, read one sentence someone else had typed about you, and closed it in 15 minutes. You will never be shown that sentence. In the next few minutes, you will know who is allowed to write it, why no one can delete it, and the one move that gets read before it does. Start with what the thing is. Every large employer runs software that holds candidates. It is not a judge, it is a container. It sorts, it timestamps, it stores. It forms no opinion about you because nothing in it was built to. Its job is to narrow a pile, not to evaluate a person. There is one exception, and it is worth naming because it is the only automatic rejection most companies run. A knockout question on the application form. Work authorization, years of experience, a salary number outside the band. Answer one of those wrong and the file closes with no human involved. That is the full scope of the robot you have been fighting. 3 or 4 drop-downs. Everything past those drop-downs is a person, a screen, and a reading order. And next to your name on that screen, there is a text box. That box is where the software stops being software and starts being memory. A recruiter types a sentence into it. Nobody countersigns. No form is completed. There is no field-marked evidence, no field-marked severity, no box to tick confirming the candidate was told. One line of free text attached to your name, time-stamped, permanent by default. Here is the part that reorders everything you assumed about it. The box is not attached to the job you applied for. It is attached to you. Every recruiter on every team at that company opens the same profile and sees the same line, written by someone they have never met, about a conversation they were not in, for a role that closed 3 years ago, which is why the rejection took 15 minutes. The reading took 15 minutes. The deciding took none. It had already happened in one sentence before you touched the apply button. And the reason the box exists is not malice, which is exactly what makes it hard to fight. Christine's team moves 2,000 candidates a year through a process that has no memory of its own. People leave, panels rotate, managers change teams. The only thing that survives a hiring cycle is what somebody typed. So the system rewards typing. It does not reward accuracy because nothing downstream ever tests the sentence against reality. A wrong note and a right note produce the same result. The file closes faster next time. First layer, who is allowed to write? You assume the panel decides. The panel is 4 people in a room with a scorecard. The people who can put a line in your file are not limited to those 4. Marcus interviewed at a manufacturing group last spring. Clean technical loop, strong feedback from all 4. He also spent 40 minutes on a plant tour with a floor supervisor who sat on no panel and 2 weeks rescheduling flights with a coordinator he never met in person. Both of those people had a direct line to the recruiter. Neither of them had a scorecard, a rubric, or a rating scale. They had a chat window. That is the real reporting structure of a hiring process. The org chart says the hiring manager decides. The information chart says anyone who touched the process can send one sentence upward, and that sentence lands in a box with no author the candidate will ever see. Right now, you are replaying a conversation with someone you assume did not count. Keep that. And the sentence itself is never dramatic. That is precisely why it survives. Nobody types misconduct. They type difficult to schedule. They type not aligned with how we work. They type would not move forward on a future role. 4 words, no incident attached, no date, no name. A line that vague is never challenged by the next person who opens the file because there is nothing in it to challenge. It is also far too vague for anyone to ever verify. It sits there being true enough. Second layer, the cost of writing against the cost of removing. Typing a note costs Christine 9 seconds. She is closing 40 profiles that afternoon. 9 seconds. No approval, no notification, no review cycle, no expiry date. Removing that note costs, and this is where the mechanism stops looking careless and starts looking structural. There is no process. None exists. Not because the company is guarding the sentence, because it never built a process for creating one either. You cannot appeal a decision that was never formally made. That asymmetry is not an oversight. It is the end state of any system where writing is free and reading is cheap. Third layer, and this one needs nobody to type anything at all. Kevin wanted in badly. He applied to 120 roles at the same company across 4 months. Different divisions, different levels, different functions. 120 applications across 4 months is one every single day, weekends included. Kevin was not reading those postings. He was closing tabs. Christine never had to write a sentence about Kevin. She opened his profile, and the activity log said it for her. 120 applications, everyone closed, none of them related to each other. What that pattern reports is not hunger. It reports that 119 other teams already looked and passed. The system wrote his note for him. He filed it himself, one click at a time. Now hold the timeline, because this is where the damage compounds. The sentence does not sit in a folder attached to that one role. It travels. New posting, new team, new recruiter, same profile, same line, still first in the reading order. Marcus applies 18 months later to a division that did not exist when he interviewed. It is still there, still unsigned, still unreadable to him. And nothing will ever tell him. No notification, no letter, no status code, no appeal window. A candidate gets exactly 2 signals, and both of them are ambiguous by design. Rejections that come back faster than a human could plausibly evaluate anything. And silence from a company that used to answer inside a day. You are already scanning your own history for the moment it happened. Everyone does. It is the wrong search. The note is almost never attached to a moment you would remember, because the moments you remember are the ones where you were paying attention. So Marcus does what everyone does with those 2 signals. He assumes it is the resume. He rewrites the summary. He buys the template. He runs it through a keyword tool. 9 months of work on a document that was never the thing being read. That is the real cost, not the rejection. The 9 months spent optimizing the wrong file, which brings you to the move. And it is the opposite of what the situation makes you want to do. Stop applying there. Every additional application does 2 things, and neither of them helps you. It triggers another read of the sentence, and it adds another line to the pattern that becomes the next sentence. You are not improving your odds. You are refreshing the evidence. 2 moves change something, and they operate on 2 different sets of companies. On the company that already has the note. You cannot delete the line, so you change the reading order instead. An internal referral is the only channel where a human forms an impression of you before your profile opens. Someone inside sends your name to the hiring manager. The manager asks for you by name. Now the recruiter opens the file already holding a competing signal. It erases nothing. It means the sentence is no longer the first thing in the room. And that ordering is the whole game, because a referral is the one input the system cannot file. It arrives as a person vouching for a person. There is no box for it, no status code, no field to store it in. So it stays outside the record, where it competes with the record instead of being absorbed by it. That is the only realistic path back into a company that has closed on you, and it is narrow. Treat it as narrow. On every company you have not applied to yet, you control what gets written, and there is exactly one situation where a note is guaranteed. Silence. Accept an offer and then disappear. That gets typed. Skip a scheduled screen without a word. That gets typed. Go quiet after 4 rounds. That gets typed. Declining does not. Being unavailable does not. Changing your mind does not. Not as long as it arrives in a sentence. So send the sentence, not an apology, not an explanation, not a paragraph about your circumstances, which nobody will read and which files itself as a problem. One line that closes the loop on their side. You are withdrawing. You are grateful for their time. You would like to stay in contact. 9 seconds of their reading time against a permanent line in a file you will never see. That trade is not close. That was one mechanism inside a much larger system. Subscribe. The next one is already written. Back to the question you have been carrying since the first rejection. How long does it stay? It does not expire. There is no retention window on a comment field because nobody ever classified it as a record. It is not a sanction, so no policy governs it. It is not a decision, so no appeal reaches it. It ends when the software ends. A migration to a new platform, roughly once a decade, where some fields carry across and some quietly do not. That is the sentence you are waiting on, not a review, a database migration. And if that lands badly, hold the whole shape of it for a second. The company never concluded you were not good enough. It concluded once in 9 seconds that it already had an answer about you. Then it stopped checking whether the answer was still true. Every large institution runs on stored answers. The hiring file is the one you can feel from the outside. There is a second file, and it is written on the people who already got in. Same mechanism, higher stakes, and you have been graded in it every quarter without ever seeing the page. The video on screen right now shows you where it lives, and the line in it that decides your next 3 years is not the one about your performance.